Hi everyone, Grandmaster Ben Finegold here again. Well, one of the gawking rabble stated that if I made a third video today, he would donate $10. And as a poor, starving Grandmaster, I'll do anything for $10. Anything. So, well, since I didn't really feel like taking a nap yet, or maybe I already took one, I decided to make another video. Although if you do have requests, you really should donate because, as you all know, the more you pay, the more you learn. Go to www.hclchessclub.com. Go look at our website. Tell me what you think about it. We're going to open a chess center in September, and find the donate button. And don't forget, as Rex Saintfield has told me many times, there's no maximum on the donations. No donation is too large. So hopefully he'll remember that when the time comes. Okay, now this video is actually showing a game that I played in Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta a little while ago. I live here with my wife and her kids. And although I'm in St. Louis maybe 30–40% of the time working, I have to sleep somewhere. So actually, my wife and her son were playing in a local yokel tournament, and I told them if there was an odd number and somebody had a bye, then I would be a house player. And the guy didn't know who I was, and he said more like big as a house player. I was very insulted. I told him I'd been thrown out of better places, although not much better. So this was the round 2 of the tournament. Round 1, I was taking a nap, and there was an odd number of players. This player was rated, somewhere in the 1400s, 1500s. His name is Jason Wright. He's a local Atlanta chess player. And I decided, since my opponent was over 1,000 points lower rated than me, I could risk playing the move e4. And you got to be at least 1,000 points lower before I'll play that. No, it's not true. I play e4 occasionally. Now, having seen the great Jonathan Schrantz's OV Gambit video, which has over 300,000 hits, I believe, on YouTube, strangely enough, little did he know that I played the OV Gambit before he was born. And not only did I play the OV Gambit, I played it in the U.S. Junior Championship, of all places, against future U.S. champion Patrick Wolf. Future world champion Patrick Wolf. Wow. I guess I do need a nap. Okay, and the OV Gambit is the move d4. And if you want to see more on this gambit, go to the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis. Can you believe they have a chess club also? And find Jonathan Schrantz's videos. It was made about a year ago. And it's probably one of the 5 most viewed videos on the site. So you can actually search by number of views and you'll find it quickly. Now in the OV Gambit, after the move takes knight f3, the gambit itself starts with the move knight takes e4, which unfortunately my opponent didn't play. And that's a fine move. And then the line goes queen takes, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, queen h4, bishop e7, bishop g5. White has a lead in development. White's going to castle queenside, put his rooks in the middle, and start attacking the black king. Well, black shouldn't have any problem theoretically if 2 supercomputers were playing, although it seems like if 2 humans are playing, white gets a monster attack. So the computer would say it's equal, but I think most people would rather have white because of the free play. And it reminded me, an old friend of mine told me, when you don't have any pawns on the board, then you have more open files. So I don't know if the truth hurts there or not. Now, instead of the move knight takes e4, which would lead to the OV Gambit, my opponent played the move knight c6. Okay, so now I'm sort of on my own. Luckily, since I did live and work in St. Louis for almost 7 years, and I was very good friends with executive director Tony Rich. Tony Rich is actually the leading authority in Missouri on this opening, so I just sort of followed what I remember him telling me or watching him play. And so I think Tony Rich has had this position many times. So now you guys know why I'm so good. You know the secret. I get all of my opening theory from the A player and expert rated player employees at the chess club in St. Louis. That's why I play the opening so well. Okay, and after d5, this is a position that's occurred thousands of times. And it's also important to note, I should go back, if you don't like this variation for white, the other common variation is e5, d5, bishop b5, and then we get this position. This has also happened in thousands of games. Okay. Okay, instead I castled, and my opponent could play knight takes e4 here, which he did. He could also play bishop c5. Other moves are possible. Okay, Now, in this position, if you don't know the position, you will be very surprised what white does here. And if you do know the position, you'll still be surprised, because I know you guys don't remember much. Okay, and in this position, the only good move for white is bishop takes d5, which very temporarily sacrifices a piece. Of course, black takes. Now, if you don't know this position, pause your video and try to guess what the book move is here for white. For those of you who don't know this, you'll be very surprised. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, you've unpaused the video, and I'm sure you found the move knight c3. This takes advantage of two pins. The pin on the d pawn, you can't take with the pawn because you lose your queen, and you can't take with the knight because the computer won't let me. If I try to play knight takes knight, you guys won't even see what happens. See, I'm trying to take the knight. It won't let me. It's making a weird beeping noise. And somewhere in the world, Robert Hess is very annoyed. Okay, so queen h5 is the most common move, but not the only move. That's what my opponent played. And here, black can play either bishop e7 or bishop e6. You'll notice this team is very dangerous for black. Now, some of you might be saying, whoa, white's castled, black's king looks terrible, black's queen's running around. Why is black playing this? Well, I'll give you two reasons. Black has the two bishops, and black has an extra pawn. And two bishops and an extra pawn, some people would kill for those things. Okay, bishop e6, black's going to castle queenside, which is very common in this opening, but I prevented it with bishop to g5. And in this position, black made his first mistake. I'm not really well versed on this position, not like the aforementioned Tony Rich. However, doing some analysis afterwards, it seems bishop d6 is the best move. And now black is going to castle kingside. And the problem is we can't take on d4, and there's two ways to do it. We could take on d4 now, or we could take on d6 and then take on d4, and we can't do either one. So for example, if we take on d4 now, you'll notice h2 is hanging because the knight's not on f3 anymore, so that's not good. And if you play knight takes d6, so that the h2 pawn is not hanging, now your bishop is hanging. Okay, so something's always hanging. So in this variation, black is still a pawn up. Black temporarily has the two bishops. Black's threatening the castle. And probably black is very slightly better here. Okay, my opponent played bishop e7, which seems sort of natural. But after this, white actually has a nice advantage. Bishop takes e7. Grandmaster Onashuk from the United States once played the very strange move king takes e7 here. Okay, and after that, white still has the advantage. My opponent played the natural knight takes e7. And now, instead of playing for mate and attacking the king on e8 and making loud roaring noises, rawr, we just trade into a much, much better endgame. Knight takes d4 with a discovered attack on the queen. Queen takes d1, rook takes d1. And, I mean, it's clear to even the most dim-witted individual with an advanced degree in hyperbolic topology that black is in trouble here. White basically has a perfect position. Black hasn't castled yet. White's threatening knight takes e6, followed by either knight c5 or knight g5. And here my opponent made the losing move. Now, if we go back in this position, my opponent thought for several minutes. And he decided after takes, he had already figured out his next move, and he actually moved in less than 3 seconds here. And as some advice for you at home, and remember, don't listen to this advice unless you're donating, then you can listen. Even if you know what you're going to do before you do it, you should still take a few seconds to think because the position is different now than it was in your head. My opponent was convinced knight c5 was coming. And I must admit, knight c5 is coming. So he's right. Unfortunately, I have other good moves as well. So here, black should decide to castle one way or the other and accept a really bad position after knight takes e6. Instead, he played b6, which prevents knight c5. Unfortunately for him, it doesn't prevent knight g5. And so now white is winning very easily by just taking and playing knight g5. And this is like a Magnus Carlsen dream. You play an opening that doesn't really give you anything. Your opponent makes one inaccuracy and one bad move, and on move 15, it's already over. And white has no trouble at all. White has no weaknesses. Black's going to have trouble holding his losses to one pawn. Probably he's going to lose 2 pawns by force. And after knight g5, he was very unhappy. He realized his b6 move wasn't good. Okay, he castled. I take, forking the c-pawn and the rook, and my rook is also on his knight, so another threat would be something like knight takes g7, which wins another pawn. And if you don't like any of those moves, then rook d7 is not bad either. So basically, white has everything, and white has a pawn. As they like to say in St. Louis, white has the pawn and the compensation. The game didn't last very long. Rook f7, I could take on c7. I decided to play knight g5. I wanted to say I paid my entry fee so I could decide which way to win. Although since I didn't pay my entry fee, maybe I shouldn't say that. Okay, knight g5 threatens the rook. Notice, if the rook moves to a random square, I'll just take the knight for free. So unless he wants to lose the exchange, he has to play rook f5. That way, when I take his knight, he takes my knight, and unfortunately, now I'm up 2 pawns with a rook on the 7th rank. Okay, my opponent played rook e5. Pretty obvious he wants to play rook e2. And if I decide to double rooks, he can mate me on e1. Now, this is a good puzzle for you, so I want you to pause the video once I ask the question. I would like to play the move rook d7, doubling rooks, and I would like to not get checkmated, and when I double rooks on the 7th rank, I don't want my opponent defending his pawn with rook g5. What move can I make accomplishes all 3 goals? Pause the video and try to figure it out. Okay, hopefully you found the move that I played, h4. If you had said f4, that's also very reasonable. I'm not going to get mated on the back row now, and when I double rooks on the 7th rank, my opponent can't play rook g5. So he played rook h5. Now if I double rooks, I can win his g-pawn, he'll win my h-pawn, so I just defended my h-pawn. Give myself a little more lift. Rook f8, I could take on a7, but I decided to double rooks. Well, it's hard to save the g-pawn, so he just saved his a-pawn. And now, if you're good at counting, I'm not sure if you're good at counting, I'm up 3 pawns. And usually when I'm up 3 pawns in an ending, my technique is okay. Okay, the rest of the game, the rest of the moves don't require much commentary, although one of his moves confused me. I played a4, he traded rooks. Normally I would say never trade, never trade, never trade, but if I move my rook, he could take on h4 because my g-pawn is pinned. For example, rook f7, rook h4, and now my a4 pawn is attacked. And okay, this is winning too, but there's no reason to do this when I could keep his king tied down to the back rank and play rook b7. Now I was very shocked at his move, and I still don't understand it. Of course, he could resign, but when he picked his rook up, I was very sure he was going to c5, attacking my pawn. I could take on b6, or I could play c3. They both win. Or if it's his move, I'm winning. And instead, he played rook d5. I don't get it. If you're going to not attack my c-pawn, you might as well play rook h6 and defend your pawn. But I guess when some people give up hope, their play becomes sort of strange. Okay, now I'm 4 pawns up, and after c4, which, as you all know, say it at home together, c4 is... Hey, I heard some of you. Very good. It's explosive. Very good. c4 is such an explosive move, my opponent resigned. Now, if you want a lesson from this game, I recommend when you play in a rated chess tournament, don't play somebody 1,200 points higher rated than you because you're very unlikely to win or draw. But you get a good lesson. He probably learned more about the opening, and hopefully he'll learn how to hang on to his pawns more. Okay, that was a game that I played about less than a month ago against Jason Wright, a local 1,400 to 1,500 player. And, well, I'm getting older, so soon he'll have his revenge, and he can make his own videos on YouTube. This is Grandmaster Ben Finegold. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to donate. www.atlchessclub.com. And one of you out there owes me $10. Rawr! See you next time.